And we know that inclusive marketing has a positive impact on people, particularly the younger generations. What brands are doing this well and how? Sonny, do you want to?
Yes, thank you. Really interested in what you said in terms of kind of the lived-in experiences of the people that you're trying to target. So I will answer your question in a second. And I think that's obviously what is interesting in terms of the brands that are actually reaching out to the consumers that they really want to bring in as well. Because I fundamentally do have a problem with the word diversity, because I think the word diversity in itself is almost a catch-all phrase for one thing and one thing alone, and that is the color of the skin at the moment. And I think that's such a kind of almost a lazy reference to diversity, because when I am asked that, you know, you are that diverse thing, I'm always asking, you know, what is it that's making me diverse? Is it the color of my skin? Is it my gray hair? Or is it my gender? But I am not only those three things, but I'm a sum of, you know, a whole other different parts as well. So I think diversity in itself is almost sort of kind of the othering of the so-called diverse, if that makes sense. Which is why I'm really fascinated by the kind of work that World Remit is doing, because in answer to your question about which brands are doing well, and especially in terms of bringing in the younger generation, it always actually, it kind of slightly amuses me, because you ask, you know, there are all these different study after study after study saying, you know, what is it that the so-called millennials or the younger generation, they're kind of flying the flag for sustainability, more representation, etc. But then you look at a business like Boohoo, for instance, you know, it is a multi-billion dollar company, and we all know what is wrong with the business. And the announcement that happened last night from Patagonia, for instance, where they said that their shareholder is the earth itself, let's not forget that the core audience of Patagonia, the brand, is actually 25 to 40 plus. So whatever the so-called sort of newer generation that the brands are trying to seduce, let's not forget that there is a cohort of people like us, you know, who probably obviously have more money to spend as well. But you know, in more recent times, I was really struck by the Tesco Ramadan ad, and obviously, you know, again, I have to confess it's not something I know about a lot, but to again really understand the lived-in experience of the people that they were trying to connect with BBH, and therefore going to an agency like Unmistakable's, which obviously it functions in specialists in ethnic minorities, and how to bring that audience in. To do that outdoor campaign, I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. It was the most beautiful manifestation of what the retailer was trying to do. And of course, you know, there are things in pockets, like you have, talking of another retailer, Tu, for instance, came out with a campaign, I think it was New Commercial Arts, and they had women of different sizes and shapes and genders and age groups, for instance. And then I was talking to a few colleagues last night, and they came up with, because my grey hair comes up a lot in conversation, I have no idea why, but they came up with the recent campaign from Dove, which followed the ousting of the Canadian newsreader. So there's this very famous Canadian newsreader, and she was ousted because she had stopped dyeing her hair, as much as the station said that it wasn't because of that. But anyway, she didn't have a job after that. So Dove was one of the first brands to come out with, they had, you could go on social media and do grey tones on your hair. I mean, you know, let's not forget that this is, again, a business which has been selling hair dye, and of course, the country I come from in India, you know, the skin creams which obviously promise to make your skin white as well. So it is quite a complicated system that we're living in. So I think there are tokenisms that are happening, but at the same time, like the Tesco example, and indeed the Patagonia example as well, which obviously is really sort of not just talking to the audience, but it is living the very promise of the brand and the business itself.
Which is fantastic, because I think you touched on some really great points there about the use of the word diversity. Like, what does that mean? It's like the most sort of vacuous word in a sense, because I think you need to sort of cement it in a bit more. And actually, you've added another layer to that, Sunu, by bringing into the fact that brands do really need to consider intersectionality. Like, I am black, I'm a woman, I'm a parent, I'm from a certain socioeconomic background. So are you taking that into consideration, or are you just going, oh, they're diverse because they're black, or they're diverse because they're female? So I think bringing that to light is actually really crucial things for brands to consider.
Yeah, because otherwise real change cannot happen, because only if you have the kind of focus of what essentially it is that you're trying to change, because let's not forget that the systems and the societies and the politics of where we live in, it was actually made by white men who obviously at the time did not even have primary caregiving responsibilities. So it's that big a challenge that we are actually talking about, really.
And also I think, you know, the younger generation are more, not clued up, but they care a bit more about what they're spending their money on. And I think they will dig a bit deeper into the brand, who is running it, what's behind the scenes, who is sitting in those rooms making the creative decisions and ideas. So I think, you know, that's all got to be factored. They're not just going to be like, oh, here's a great ad, let me go buy it.
Yes.
Yeah.